Hello everyone, this is Easy Natural English with Liam, where I talk to you with no script and no editing, and I talk to you in a natural way, but I make it a bit easier so you can get used to the way that English really sounds without it being too difficult. And today I want to talk to you again about how important listening to English is, because I have many students who ask me, why can't I understand English? So they ask the question because they are thinking that they know the vocabulary, perhaps they know the grammar that they studied in a textbook, but when they listen to English, they cannot understand it. And also when they try to speak English, they might have trouble to put the vocabulary and the grammar that they know together to make a sentence. Of course, this is a problem that all language learners have. I'm studying Japanese, and of course I do not understand perfectly. I have the same problems when I'm watching movies. People say things, and perhaps I know the vocabulary they used, or at least I think I know the vocabulary, but I don't understand it in that sentence or in that context. So the problem is that with vocabulary, it's not a simple yes or no question. I think people think when they learn a new word, sometimes they think that they see a word one time, maybe check the meaning in a dictionary, and then they feel like, tick, I know that word, I know that piece of vocabulary. But learning vocabulary is not simply yes or no. It's more like a percentage. It's more like a meter or a level. So the first time you see a new piece of vocabulary, or the first time you hear a new piece of vocabulary, your understanding of that word will be like 1% understanding or 2% understanding. Like you will be able to recognize the word and maybe you'll remember the spelling, but you won't fully understand the word until you see it in lots of sentences, hear it in lots of sentences, and then see it and hear it in lots of different situations, lots of different contexts. And then you'll start to get a sense of what the word really means. Especially if you're trying to translate things, because if you've been studying English for a while, you will notice that your language and any other language will not translate directly. One word might mean something in your language, but in English it could translate to 4 or 5, 6 words. And the same in English, there might be one word that translates to 4 or 5, 6, 7 words in your language. So words do not translate perfectly. Depends on the context, depends on the situation. And it's the same for grammar rules. The way that something like present continuous works in English, so present continuous, like I am doing, it works very differently, for example, than the continuous tense in Japanese. So I think a lot of English speakers learning Japanese, a lot of Japanese speakers learning English, they think they can use the same grammar in the same place, but our languages work very differently. So a big problem with, so when you have this question, like, why can't I understand? It's because you don't know that word or that piece of grammar as well as you think you do. So we can learn a new grammar rule, we can learn a new word, but it's not finished yet. You still need to keep practicing using that word or using that grammar and hearing that grammar and reading that grammar before you really understand it. Like if we were talking about sports and we were playing tennis and I showed you a new stroke. So stroke in tennis is when you swing your racket. So if I showed you, for example, a backhand stroke, that's when you hit the ball with your tennis racket this way. Instead of going forwards, you go backwards. If I showed you a new stroke and I just showed you one time, Does that mean you know how to do it now? No. I mean, I don't know how to do it. I don't play tennis. So I might be able to recognize that this is a backhand stroke. I know that this is called a backhand stroke, but can I do it? No, because I don't play tennis. I haven't practiced. And this is the same with languages. You might know this word, but you don't really know how this word works, you see? So that's a problem with why you cannot understand something that you think you can understand. And then the other big problem is a lack of unconscious knowledge. So unconscious means without thinking. So a lot of people try to study languages consciously. So consciously would be like looking at a textbook, reading an explanation of the grammar, reading an explanation of vocabulary, and trying to memorize things. So trying to keep them in your memory, like just a piece of knowledge, a piece of information. But see, as a native English speaker, of course, English is completely unconscious for me. I'm talking to you now, and I'm not thinking about any of these words. I'm just, I have ideas that I want to express, that I want to say to you, and the words are coming out of my mouth. And this is the same for you. When you speak your native language, you are speaking unconsciously. You are doing it without thinking. You are just communicating. You have ideas, and they are coming out of your mouth. You're not thinking about grammar. You're not thinking about vocabulary. Maybe in our own language, we do this like 1% of the time. Sometimes if you're trying to remember a difficult word that you don't usually use, you might stop to think. But normally we don't need to do that. And in another language, of course, we can do some conscious study. We can check some grammar rules. We can check some translations of vocabulary. But the real learning happens unconsciously, so without thinking. And that happens by listening to English as much as possible, reading in English as much as possible, speaking with native speakers as much as possible. So you can get used to the way that English is put together. So this is what I try to do with Japanese. I've been studying Japanese for a long time. And of course, I check grammar rules, I check vocabulary, but I don't really, like I said earlier, I don't really understand those things until I hear them many times. So sometimes I check a grammar rule and I think I kind of understand that new grammar, but then I hear it in a new situation and I don't understand why they're using it in that situation. So I just a bit confused, but then later I hear it again, and then I hear it again, and then I hear it again and again and again. And then I start to get an understanding. I start to think, oh, okay, now I know when to use that grammar, or now I know when to use that vocabulary. So trying to only learn consciously, trying to only learn with textbooks, trying to only learn with translations will never really give you a real feeling for the language and how it is put together. So you will find that you cannot understand things that you think you understand. And especially with listening skills, it's something that needs to be improved unconsciously, because your brain is not used to those sounds yet. So I think I've mentioned this in previous episodes that, for example, if someone tells you a name of somebody in a language that you're not learning, you probably cannot pronounce the name correctly. So they might say the name to you, and you might try to say it, and you think you're doing it correctly. I've had this experience, especially with Scandinavian names. So when I talk to people from Norway or Sweden, I've never studied any Scandinavian languages. So when I hear like a Norwegian name, they say their name, I try to repeat it, and they say to me, it's still not correct. And to me, I think it sounds the same. It sounds the same. But that's because my brain cannot hear the difference between those sounds. So, if you know some vocabulary in English, you might be able to read it when you see it in a book, but when people are speaking, your brain is not comfortable enough with those sounds to hear them when they're being spoken at a faster speed and when they're being spoken in the way that native speakers say them, so you won't hear them. Sometimes students tell me that English is a fast language, but I am 100% sure that all languages are fast. Nobody has time to be speaking slowly. Your language, your own language, might sound slow to you because your brain can understand it perfectly. So you can hear every single part of it, so it won't sound fast to you. English does not sound fast to me. Even when I hear somebody rapping or speaking very quickly, of course I can understand everything they're saying because I've been speaking English my whole life. I can understand everything perfectly, and it doesn't sound fast to me. And I'm sure your language is the same for you. When you hear your language being spoken on the news or in music or in a very fast movie, it doesn't sound fast to you, but I promise if you were somebody learning your language, it would also sound very fast. So I studied French for a long time, and French always sounded very, very fast to me. Now I've been studying Japanese for a long time, and Japanese has always sounded very, very fast to me. But something I've noticed is the more I studied French and the more I studied Japanese, it started to sound slower. So at the beginning, it sounded very, very fast. And over time, when I kept listening to French and now I keep listening to Japanese, it feels like it's getting slower. So what's really happening is my ears and my brain are getting more used to the sounds of Japanese. And with time, I can hear more parts. Before perhaps I could hear this part and then ba-ba-ba-ba. And then I could hear this part and then ba-ba-ba-ba. But more and more, I can hear the sentence clearly, and the bits that I can't hear are getting less and less. You will find that this will happen unconsciously. It's hard to notice it's happening. Sometimes when you're listening, and you're listening for a few months, you might think, I'm not getting better. I'm not getting better. So something that's very important to do is when you listen to something that you think is difficult, keep listening to other things, keep listening to English every day, keep trying to improve your English, keep reading and keep listening and speaking. And then when you feel like you're not improving, listen to something that you listened to 3 months ago or 4 months ago or even 1 year ago. And I promise if you're studying a lot, that when you listen to it, it will feel much easier than last time. And that will show you that you are getting better, and that will help you to feel your motivation, help you to have motivation. Because when we're just studying every day, we're only improving a tiny bit every day, and it's very hard to feel the difference. But if we go back to 3, 4, 5 months ago, then you will definitely be able to feel the difference. And I think that will help to keep you motivated. So please give that a try. So the message today, like I always say to you, is just keep listening, keep listening, keep listening. And also keep reading. Come and take a lesson with me on italki. Just keep practicing your English and you will get better. If you don't feel like you're getting better, go back and look at something you did a few months ago and you will see a difference. But you need to keep studying unconsciously. So conscious study is important, looking at grammar rules, looking at meanings of words, but unconscious study is very, very important. Just keep listening, keep listening. Don't panic if you don't understand. It will become more clear for you. Just keep it up. Don't give up. You can do it. I know that it works. Okay, so thank you all very much for listening today. It's a very good start. You've been listening now for about 15 minutes. So now go and listen to something else. You can listen to another episode of Easy Natural English. You can go and watch a movie. You can watch a TV show, watch other YouTube channels. Just keep listening, keep listening, keep listening. If you're on the YouTube version, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. If you're on the podcast version, please follow and review wherever you can. Everyone share with your friends, and I'll see you all back here next time.